Hi, this is Bob Costas, and you're listening to the ML Sports Platter.
The ML Sports Platter back with you all over the major platforms like Spotify, Google, Apple, Stitcher, Deezer, you name it, go get it. Download, subscribe, leave feedback, and a 5-star review. All of that stuff helps an awful lot. We are brought to you by Bryant and Stratton College. For every and in life, Bryant and Stratton College. Go ahead and visit the website, bryantstratton.edu. That's bryantstratton.edu. And find out what Bryant and Stratton College can offer you. 2 great locations in the central New York area and beyond at Bryant and Stratton College. For every and in life, I'll tell you what, it's a great place to be right now. Bobcat pride is real. Athletics, academics, you name it, it's all happening at Bryant and Stratton College, a proud ML Sports Platter sponsor. A big thanks as well to the Whitaker and Swan families, as well as Barks and Rec Doggy Daycare, Vince Aguirre Consulting Group, and our good buddies at Rosie's Corner. If you're in and around Central New York, go ahead and get the Fish Friday every single week. They're available on Grubhub as well, and on Instagram, and on Facebook. Jason, Jody, and the gang are crushing it with their terrific Lunas as well. The garlic parm wings are to die for. Pizza and wing combinations are available. And hey, don't sleep on the appetizers and the American Classic Burger at Rosie's Corner. Great stuff in the cooler. Pepsi products, chicken salads, you name it, and desserts to go at Rosie's Corner, a proud ML Sports Platter sponsor. I can't even believe I'm introducing this next guest. He's an unbelievable play-by-play man. I've been listening to him for so long. Sam Rosen, American sportscaster, Hockey Hall of Famer, play-by-play man for the New York Rangers on MSG. Sam, this is so fun for me. Huge fan over here. Thank you for coming on the ML Sports Platter. How are you, man?
Mike, I'm fine, and thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to it. It's always fun to talk hockey, and this is a great time of the year as we're winding up this crazy pandemic season, truncated, whatever you want to call it. But, we're like all sports, we're battling through it, and we're heading for the home stretch now into the super time of the year for hockey, and that's the playoffs.
No doubt about it. When did you realize that you wanted to be a play-by-play broadcaster?
That is a wonderful question. I would say somewhere it was in my inner being for many, many years as a kid, because I was an avid listener to the radio and to games on radio, basketball, football, baseball. I was and hockey as well. Hockey wasn't on the radio as much as the other sports, but baseball, I listened to Mel Allen. I was a big Yankee fan. Mel Allen was the guy I listened to. I was a big Giants football fan. I listened to Marty Glickman. Basketball, there was a time Marty Glickman was a little before me. Then along came Marv Albert. Marv Albert carried me for many years listening to basketball. And when it was hockey, it started with Jim Gordon, who was my predecessor with the Rangers. So I was an avid sports listener, but I was also a player. I mean, I played baseball right through college, through high school and college. Pretty good player. I captained my teams. But when you reach a point at the end of your college career where you know you're not going to be able to make that next step, the next best thing was to become an announcer. And that's where that inner being that I mentioned took over, because I loved listening to the play-by-play guys, and I said, what do I want to be around? I wanted to be around sports, and the next best thing, if you couldn't play at the major league level, the next best thing was to announce at that level, and that became my goal.
You know what? There are certain venues and places in sports where you feel, gosh, you just feel different when you walk in the building. You feel different when you walk on, a certain golf course, or you walk into Lambeau Field, Wrigley Field, the old Yankee Stadium, Fenway. I haven't been to Notre Dame Stadium or Michigan, but I'm sure it's that way as well. And I've been to Madison Square Garden, I want to think 7 or 8 times at this point. I saw LeBron play basketball there. I saw a Ranger playoff game. I've covered a couple of Big East tournaments there as well for Syracuse. And you just walk into MSG and you just kind of feel different, right? And so do you still, though, walk in and get that same feeling, Sam, about, my goodness, Ali Frazier, the Knicks, the Rangers, the rock concerts? Do you feel it in your body still when you walk into that building?
You do, and I tell you when you do, Mike. It's when there's a big event, when a big game is coming up. If it's a playoff game, you go back, and I certainly go back to 1994, when not only were the Rangers going for the Stanley Cup, but the Knicks were playing in the NBA Finals as well. So it's that feeling of big events. I spent a New Year's Eve at Madison Square Garden watching Billy Joel rock the house. The building was shaking, literally shaking, and I turned to my wife and said, this is the way it's going to be when the Rangers win the Stanley Cup. And it was. And the Rangers won it at the Garden. But it's those big events. You talked about Ali Frazier. Nothing bigger than Ali Frazier, and people still remember it. 50 years later, they talk about it. What a huge sporting event it was in New York, and it was Madison Square Garden. And the Garden is and always has been, and I believe always will be, the Mecca. You know, you talk about college basketball, it was the place to be. And then the NBA, the Knicks are starting to enjoy a revival. What we need now, because of what's gone on in the past year plus with the pandemic, is we need a full building. And then that's when you feel the electricity. When you walk in the building, and the moment you walk in, you feel it. Your skin begins to tingle. The anticipation of the game upcoming, that's when you really feel the excitement and the aura of being in Madison Square Garden.
With this recent Corona stuff going on, and obviously no fans to some fans, to hopefully we get back to normal where we hear the roar of the crowd and sellout crowds, and there's no crowd that's better than an MSG crowd on a weekend in the playoffs for Knicks or Rangers or whatever the case may be. Did you ever during this time, Sam, sit back and go, damn, maybe I took the fans for granted?
No, never did,
Okay.
because the fans are what made it. The fans, I can honestly say the fans are what made me. The acceptance that you get from the fans, the reaction you get when you walk out onto the street after a game, and now, of course, with social media, the feeling you get from the fans, you never take the fans for granted, because no matter what, even the athletes who are making millions and millions of dollars, the contracts are just astronomical. You just shake your head every time there's a new level reached on a contract. But the players feel it from the fans. They get the excitement. They miss the fans. They couldn't believe the feeling last year when they resumed play in the bubble with no fans. It's weird. It's very, very strange. Now, you grow up with it, you know, when you're playing in hockey, when you're playing in the youth level and junior level. Yeah, there are very few fans in the stands. And as you grow up, if you're playing college baseball or high school baseball, you know, you have some fans sprinkled around the field. But it's not like that feeling as a professional when you're playing in a full building on a Sunday afternoon. You're playing football in front of 70 or 80,000 people, and they're cheering every play. College football, you mentioned Notre Dame Stadium, Michigan, Ohio State, over 100,000 people are watching football. Hockey has become a great event on New Year's Day when you have the Winter Classic, where they've played in football stadiums. They played at Michigan Stadium, over 100,000 people watching a hockey game. They had a game at Notre Dame Stadium. They've had it in baseball stadiums. So you never take the fans for granted, because they are the ones that pay the freight, but also they're the ones cheering the players on and urging them on to greater heights. And these players perform. These are performers, and they play to the max when that building is full.
A few more for Sam Rosen, the terrific play-by-play man for the Rangers on MSG, NHL Hall of Famer. Do you remember your Hall of Fame day? Take us back.
Well, I'll start back in the summertime when I got a call from Chuck Caton, the former play-by-play man for the Hartford Whalers and the Carolina Hurricanes. Chuck was the president of the Broadcasters Association. My phone rang. I picked it up. Hey, Sam, it's Chuck. How you doing? And great. You know, I knew he was smoking a cigar and playing golf. And he said, what are you doing the middle of November on a Monday night? And I said, this sounds pretty good. So he was telling me that's when the Hall of Fame ceremony was going to be. And that was a great feeling. Just, you know, it's an overwhelming feeling. You're just humbled that your peers have recognized you for something that will live on forever. The Hall of Fame induction is a great luncheon involving the people in hockey at all levels. Had former players there, tons of broadcasters there, people from the National Hockey League, and officials and administrators. It's just to stand up in front of them and have them applaud you and welcome you into the group. And then that night when the players have their induction ceremony, to be recognized amongst them and amongst the crowd. And it's a huge honor. And then when you see the plaque on the wall in the showcase in the Hall of Fame, amazing. And you look at it, and your family is there, and you read it, and you realize that this will live there forever. It's an amazing feeling.
You and John Davidson had some kind of chemistry, and I loved watching and listening. John, obviously now the current president of the Rangers, and a team that I pull for if my Sabres don't make the playoffs, which, by the way, Sam, as you know, they haven't for 10 years. You and John, you know, the chemistry, the relationship, get into that a little bit and what you think you've learned from each other.
John and I worked together for 20 years, and I can honestly say, Mike, every day was a joy to go to work. I mean, it wasn't work. It was going to see a hockey game and watch a hockey game with my good friend. And it started with friendship. I knew John while he was a player. When he finished playing, his career got cut short because of injuries. He became the third man in the broadcast booth. Jim Gordon and Phil Esposito were together, and John was like the third man, and he was uncomfortable being the third wheel, so he went up to Canada, learned the profession the way he does everything else to the utmost. He became the best analyst I think in television, but definitely in hockey. He set the standard, came back in 1986 to the Rangers, and we worked together for 20 years. But it started with friendship and a trust in each other, a belief in each other, knowing that we'd be prepared. What I learned from him, Mike, is I thought I was prepared. I wasn't half as prepared as he was, and I realized I had to up my game and my level of preparation, and I did by doing what he did, getting a satellite on the roof of my house and watching as many games as possible and understanding the game and knowing who the players were and where they came from. So I had to match his level of preparation. And together we just we worked off each other and had fun. We worked at the network level. We worked at Madison Square Garden Network, which is a network level quality broadcast every single night. So we were always prepared and always pointing to do the best possible job we could.
So this current NHL it's a little different. I mean, they constructed these divisions. The East is, I don't have to tell you twice. You've seen every team a million times. I mean, this East is what a monster. I mean, Boston, a team that I always feel like is going to win the Stanley Cup every year. Pittsburgh with Crosby and Malkin. The Islanders are a lunch bucket group of guys that just they get it done. Washington with Ovechkin and company and Oshie, and I thought they had a great trade deadline. It's awfully hard to make the playoffs here, right? So the Rangers are just outside as we record this. Do they make it? I tell you what, Sam, I love watching this team. I love Kreider. I love Zibanejad. I like a lot of the youngsters, Lafreniere. I like these guys. The potential's there. They just added Jones, a defenseman. They've got a lot of things going on with the Rangers. The goaltending's been keeping up. Can the Rangers get in? How do they get in?
What JD, John Davidson, would tell you, Mike, is you've got to have patience, Mike. It's a process. Because I say to him, John, the fans, they want you to make a push for the playoffs. And he said, Sam, it's a process. We got to have patience. And I can't believe that he restrains himself. This is a young team, Mike, but the arrow is pointing up. Just what you said, they are making a push. They're playing relevant games. Right now, we're down to 13 games left in the season. They're within 4 points of the Bruins. The Bruins are tough. They've got great DNA. This is a championship quality team and organization. They've got the top line that's as good as any line in the league with Bergeron and Marchand and Pasternak, and the deals that they made at the trade deadline to augment the team, bringing in Taylor Hall, Curtis Lazar, Mike Riley from Ottawa. This is a team they're gonna be tough to catch, and the Rangers have 2 more games. The Rangers' last 2 games of the season, the Bruins will have a couple of more due to COVID postponements and rescheduling after the 2 with the Rangers. But the 6th and the 8th of May, the Rangers' last 2 games are in Boston. And the Rangers are hoping that those games will have meaning and will matter. The Rangers are close. They started slowly. When you look back, they won only 1 game in their first 7, 4 games in their first 14. But since then, they've been one of the better teams in the league. Zibanejad, who had an awful first half of the season, is playing well now. The youngsters are starting to contribute. Capo Caco, Philip Hedl, Alexei Lafreniere, you mentioned. They brought in Vitaly Kravtsov. These are young players. The guy who's been one of the biggest surprises is Keandre Miller, 21-year-old defenseman. He's playing like he's been in the league 5 years. He's been outstanding. And Adam Fox, in his second year, has stepped up to where he's in consideration for the Norris Trophy. He's the leading point-scoring defenseman, the leading defenseman in assists in the league, and he's playing a solid defensive game. So this is a team on the rise. The goaltending is which started slowly. Igor Shesterkin looks like he may be the real deal. So you still have to wait. He still has to do it for a while. But the Rangers are on the rise. If they don't make it this year, I will guarantee they will contend. I can't guarantee they'll make it. They will be a serious contender for the playoffs next season, and within 3 years, they'll be battling for the Stanley Cup.
I think so, too. I think this is a great nucleus. Final question for you, Sam. When you look back at your entire career, what are you most proud of?
I would say, Mike, that I guess that the fan appreciation, my longevity has been there. This is 37 years of doing New York Rangers play-by-play on television, but everywhere that I've worked, the years I put in with Fox, I've been with them for 25 years. wherever I've gone, I've been able to connect with the fans. They've liked what I've done, and that's why I've been able to last as long as I have. And I think that's what I'm most proud of, that people like what I do, and that I'm able to relate and have been able to relate and still do. And, as long as they'll have me, I'll keep on going because I love what I do, Mike. I look forward to the next game as much as anything. I can't wait for the next game to be played and for me to call the action.
Sam Rosen, Hockey Hall of Famer, Rangers play-by-play man, MSG. Sam, this was so much fun. Thank you so much for coming on. You're must-listen. You're must-watch. And I can tell you, I hope they keep you on as long as you want, because for people like me, it's a real treat. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me on. And, it's always great to talk sports and to talk hockey, and it's been fun being on with you.
I really hope the Rangers make the playoffs. I really do. They got a fun team. I love Fox, the defenseman. Jones they added recently as well from UMass. And you got Zibanejad, you have Kreider. It's major market, big-time hockey. And let's face it, when the Rangers are in the postseason, the NHL only benefits because then more people are talking about it, and that helps the sport. Sam Rosen, the legendary play-by-play man, New York Rangers, MSG, what a career, and he's still going. I hope he doesn't stop anytime soon. He's must-listen and must-watch. The ML Sports Platter is all over the major platforms like Spotify, Google, Apple, Stitcher, Deezer, iHeartMusic, and Amazon Music. Please do leave a 5-star review and some feedback. Hit me on Twitter at Mike L Sports. We are a part of the Brawl Network and brought to you by Bryant and Stratton College, Stanley Law Offices, Welch and Company Jewelers, and our great, great friends over at the Vinciguerra Consulting Group. Log on to vcgtransforms.com. Also want to give a tip of the cap thank you to the Swan and Whitaker families, as well as Axe Exotic Pets and Prestwick Golf. As I always tell you, enjoy the games.